Hey everybody, welcome back. This is TJ with a good day to roll die. Continuing my session here for Star Trek Captain's Log. Last time, built out a character, figured out his background, got the basic attributes and disciplines and focuses, and I said off camera I would kind of flesh out his background and figure things out. I did do that. As a result of how his story developed, I did make two slight changes to his focuses. I switched first aid to triage, and I switched leading by example to composure. I felt it was more appropriate based upon kind of how I discovered what the character was all about. And I have this big 2-page narrative. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I'll give you a quick overview of the background of my character, Wallace Lagaki. That's the name I've settled on. Lagaki being an old family name, which is where I got it from. But he doesn't mind being called Wall. If you're a really good friend, maybe you can get away with Wally, but he's not a super fan of that. So anyway, so Wallace Lagaki, he was born on Theta A in 2334. This was a planet that was nicknamed the Philosopher's Paradise. It was founded actually pre-Federation by a group of Vulcan humans who wanted to kind of explore the depths of philosophical thought. This was a kind of a splinter group of the Cyrenite Vulcans. They came to study human philosophy for various reasons, and found a lot of it very fascinating. Various forms of both Western and Eastern philosophical thought. So they also joined with a group of similar-minded humans who were interested in the teachings of Sirach. They founded this colony on Theta A. Over the centuries, lots of other species have also joined this colony. A lot of other Federation member species, even some Klingons, maybe even like a really low-key Romulan or two, but they're all there for the same reason, to explore philosophical thought, and that's where the asceticism and the introspective nature of Wall's background came from. Right. His parents were both writers, although they called themselves scribes. They were largely involved in translating the various philosophical and religious texts for all these different species that lived on Theta A, so they could all better understand one another. And they had to have a really good grasp of linguistics for that. Wall, having grown up around that, he also picked up a lot of that linguistic thought. And he learned a lot about kind of the different cultural contexts of language as a result of that, interacting with so many different varied backgrounds of individuals. That A was not a big colony, so his parents encouraged him to seek higher education elsewhere. He ended up going to Earth, studying there. He initially started kind of studying language and communications, but he discovered he was really interested in the unique language of law, legal language, legalese, kind of the subset of language within language. You have the English language has, just like any language, they have their own legal documents, and even though it's using English, it's a very sometimes procedural, technical, specific way of using those words, right? So he was very fascinated by that, and as a result, he got into law and Federation kind of legalese, as it were. And so by the time he graduated, he got involved, found a position within the Federation Legal Council. He initially served as a legal assistant. He performed lots of research duties and other activities to support various diplomatic personnel. And as a result of that work, he began receiving assignments on Starfleet vessels as parts of diplomatic teams and negotiation teams, things like that. So following that, he began working on these ships, star bases. He began to hone his skills in law enforcement. He also began to learn a lot about Starfleet protocols, spending all this time among Starfleet officers. Eventually, he got his own negotiation team that he led, and he went out into sometimes, kind of sensitive situations where he would go and solve intercultural or maybe even interplanetary conflicts that, if Starfleet didn't intervene, could lead to more violent situations. These weren't always Federation members, maybe Federation aligned, or anyone who requests Federation assistance in resolving this. So this comes to his first kind of career moment. 2366, he's serving aboard a starship called the Wyalusing. It's a Freedom class starship. Yes, I rolled for the starship types because I always like to know what the starships are about. Anyway, they go to the Zeta 1 system where there are two species there. They've had this long brewing Cold War, the Zagogdi and the Ufsamas, and they suddenly reached out to the Federation, asked them for assistance in resolving this conflict. So the Wyalusing was dispatched there, and Wall is the lead negotiator. En route to Zeta 1, the Wyalusing gets a communication from the Ufsamas, very abruptly stating that the Federation services are no longer required and they can turn away from the Zeta 1 system. The captain of the ship and Wall find this a little suspicious, especially since they can't seem to contact the Zagogdi. So they go into the Zeta system. They find that the Ufsamas are blockading Zeta 3, which is the planet where the Zagogdi live. And again, the Ufsamas are very kind of upset that the Federation showed up anyway, although they don't make any overtly hostile gestures. And they do allow the Wyalusing to beam down a crew to an away team to the planet's surface there. Wall is part of that away team since he was the lead negotiator. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the Zagogdi and where their government is in all of this. They beam down. They find that the entire planet is ravaged by this disease. The Zagogdi are very sick. They're dying. And at this point, Wall kind of becomes an assistant to the medical team to help triage, and he learns a lot about kind of, emergency medicine, kind of shoot from the hip kind of diagnoses, that kind of thing, to try to get stabilize these people and try to help them. But it's initially a mystery as to what's causing the disease. There's some suspicion that maybe the Ufsamas have launched some sort of biologic weapon. They vehemently deny this. So with the help of the Starfleet medical staff, with the support of scientists and operations officers and technicians and stuff aboard the Wyalusing, and with Wall kind of slowly prodding and poking at the government officials he's talking to, because they're all very, very kind of oddly quiet and reserved about what's happening to them. What they discover is that the Zagogdi are not native to Zeta 3. They in fact invaded Zeta 3 like a millennia ago and drove off a population of the Ufsamas who were living there, and now the Ufsamas only live on Zeta 5, and that's what started this Cold War many, many, many years ago. Zagogdi are from another planet. They evolved on that planet, and they evolved alongside a very specific enzyme that was found within the many native plants on their homeworld. Their bodies need this enzyme. They can't produce it themselves. It can't be artificially replicated by replication technology. So that when they got to Zeta 3, they discovered they were starting to get sick, and they were unable to grow the native plant life in the local soil. Didn't have the right conditions, so they had to import foodstuffs from their other colonies that could support this plant life. And they did this for many centuries. They were very secretive about it because they knew it was a vulnerability of theirs. More recently, the Ufsamas learned about this enzyme, and they started intercepting the transport ships and blockading Zeta 3, and that's what forced the Zagogdi to agree with the Ufsamas to get the Federation's assistance. But once the Ufsamas realized how sick and how deadly this lack of enzyme was to the Zagogdi, that's when they told the Federation, hey, we got this handled, because they were basically just going to let the Zagogdi die, right? So with all this now understood, and with Wall now knowing the background, he was able to successfully negotiate with both the Zagogdi and the Ufsamas. Wall convinced the Ufsamas that if they ever had interest in joining the Federation in the future, having a intentional genocide on their hands was not going to be a good look. And they also reminded them that there were other Zagogdi planets out there that could retaliate against them for this act. So the Ufsamas backed down. At the same time, he reminded the Zagogdi that they were very vulnerable with this enzyme issue, especially now that it was out in the open. And they agreed to kind of settle things with the Ufsamas. They agreed for some resettlement of the original Usamas on Zeta 3, and Starfleet promised to help the Zagagdi find a way to modify their native plants to grow on Zeta 3 so they could have a ready supply of the enzyme necessary, and this wouldn't happen again in the future. So that was a big experience for Wall. Up to that point, he'd spent much of his career thinking that Starfleet was kind of a means to an end. They were a transport for him to get to the places he needed to do to get his job done. But seeing how the Starfleet officers reacted to the crisis and knowing that it was their understanding and research into this mystery that uncovered the problem at hand, without that, Wall would not have been able to successfully negotiate if they had not learned about the enzyme and the deep history between these two species. So he really began to appreciate Starfleet even more, and that would continue to grow over time. That brings us to 2374. It's about a year into the Dominion War. The Starfleet is suffering tons of losses, lots of attrition. They can't replace qualified officers fast enough. So they began a pilot program to commission experienced persons from outside Starfleet as junior officers. And with Wall's background, knowing very much about Starfleet operations and protocol due to his extensive time among Starfleet personnel and on starships, he accepted a commission as a full lieutenant and was assigned as a communications officer because, again, he's got that linguistic background. He was assigned as a communications officer to the USS Brighton, which is a Springfield-class cruiser. Then on Stardate 51412.2, that's roughly like April of 2374, June, the Brighton was assigned to patrol along the Romulan neutral zone. Wall was part of a second contact mission where a runabout was dispatched to Eta D to meet with representatives of the Teon people. The mission was actually under command of the Brighton's first officer, but while they were on approach to Eta D, the roundabout was ambushed by a Jem'Hadar attack ship that had snuck across the Romulan neutral zone. Runabout was badly damaged. It crash landed on Eta D. The first officer and other crewmen were killed, and that left Wall as the highest ranking officer. So, they were under constant threat from Jem'Hadar patrols. They had to move through unfamiliar territory, but Wall was able to successfully make contact with the Teon people. They got a distress signal to Starfleet. Several days later, the Brighton, along with the USS Grant, which actually I didn't roll for that ship type. Maybe I should have. But they showed up in the system. They chased off the Jem'Hadar. They rescued Wall's team. Wall was commended for his actions in leading the team. Several of his fellow crewmen remarked upon his composure and grace under pressure during that event, and that helped lead to the successful rescue of that away team. The Brighton continued to serve along the neutral zone for the rest of the war. It had some other close calls with the Jem'Hadar, at least until the end of 2374, when the Romulans ended their non-aggression pact with the Dominion. And that kind of brings us to where we are now. So, as you can see from the timeline, I have decided we're about a year out from the Dominion War when the first mission is going to start. It's 2376. And we're looking at kind of a post-Dominion War recovery for the Federation and how Wall and his crew and his team are going to play into that role. So I have some ideas there, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Next thing we have to do, though, is figure out what kind of ship are we actually serving on here, and where's Wall going to be within that part of it. As you can see from the sheet, I still don't have a rank for him. I think it's going to be a little dependent upon what kind of ship we have, and what might his role be on that vessel. So let's get on to that. All right, everybody. So here's the moment of truth. Let's find out what kind of ship that Wall is going to serve on here. So there's a random table in Captain's Log. It's on page 144, and it's a TNG era one. So there's a couple ones that if we do roll it, I will probably re-roll, like the Raven class. I don't want the Raven. There's also a few missing. Like I wish the Miranda was still on here. It's on the original series table as well as the Excelsior. So we'll see how we roll. Let's see which one is the Miranda. The Miranda is a 13 on the TOS chart. The Excelsior is an 8. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see what we roll here. See what we get. So we're going to find out what ship Wall is going to be serving on here right now. 13. Okay, so next generation era, that would be a Norway class, but you know what? 13 on TOS is Miranda. I think the Miranda's still got some life left in it. I think we're going to make it the Miranda. I think we're going to have a Miranda class ship here. So let's put that in here. Miranda class. Oh, let's actually spell it correctly. Oh, let's try it again here. Miranda. Okay, that is a, what scale is it here? It's a scale of 4. Still trying to figure out this setup here and where exactly everything's going to go on my desk. So pardon the dust. Let's see. So we have, let's type in the systems here. We have comms of 7. We have engines 8. We have structure of 8. Computers are 8. Not 9, 8. Sensors are 9 and weapons are 8. In terms of departments, we have a command of 3. We have a con of 3. We have a security of 2. We have engineering 2. We have, not 4. 2. Science of 3. Medicine 2. So I'm going to have to figure out, think about the name. Think about the registry number. What traits does it have? Well, it's a Federation ship. That's about all it has for traits. And then we have talent. So there is a page 174. We have Starship Talent Matrix. There's a common, uncommon, and rare. I mean, it's a Miranda class. So I'm thinking, let's keep it to the common ones. How many talents are we supposed to roll? I think it's equal to your scale. Let's see, you may select a roll. Equal to its scale. So we can roll 4. We can roll 4 talents. So let's roll 4. It's a common ship, common talents. Let's do it. Let's see what we got. So we'll roll the first one. 14. Improved reaction control systems. What does that mean? Improved reaction control systems. Do we have a list of them here? It would be good to know what that means if we're going to use it. Oh, here we go. The ship's maneuvering thrusters operate with greater precision, allowing the ship to adjust its course more carefully. Okay, cool. Improved reaction control systems. All right, what's the next one? 19. Secondary reactors. The ship has additional impulse and fusion reactors that allow the ship to generate far greater quantities of energy. Okay. See if I can spell. All right. 4th talent. Number 20. Slim sensor silhouette. The ship is designed to present a minimal sensor return to a searching ship sensors through advanced hull plating, jamming, and passive subspace baffles. All right. And our last Starship talent here. 14 again. No, we don't need that twice. Still don't need 14. 18. All right. Rugged design. Yeah, I would definitely say the Miranda is a rugged design. The ship is designed with a frontier in mind, with a durable construction and easy access
critical systems and allow repairs to be made easily. All right. All right, very cool. So I'm gonna have to think about what the ship is called, think about the registry number. But all right, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it helps kind of build out who Wall's going to be. So we have an assignment to this ship. I'm still gonna think about the rank, but I think I know where I want to go with this at this point. So next thing we're gonna do is move on to the first mission profile. All right, everybody. Future TJ here. Hi, I'm back. You see this video is kind of stitched together. I'm trying to do some new setups with this new mic I have, and I don't know what I'm really doing. So hey, but ready to roll for our first mission to see where our ship is going. But I do want to note we do have a name and a registry for the ship now. So it's the USS Terai, NCC 9841. Terai is a word to describe the lowlands surrounding the Himalayan mountains, these marshy wetland areas. It's I think it's an Urdu word. It may also be a Nepali word, Nepalese word. I'm not 100% certain. But it sounds kind of cool. But the other reason that I chose it is it includes all of the same letters that the word Reliant has. And the registry number is just the numbers in the Reliant registry that are kind of flipped around. The 6 is turned upside down to a 9. This is kind of a reference to how in real life, in TNG, DS9 especially, we see a lot of kit-bashed ships. We see a couple different Miranda classes in DS9 that are basically just the Ertel Reliant models, and they've changed the names. So there's the USS Trial, there's the USS Late. The USS Trial I know is the NCC 1948. I think the other one's like 8641 or 4186 or something. So I thought it was kind of fun just to play around with that. So it's the USS Terai. It is a Miranda class. Wall is a lieutenant commander. He's the XO. And I have the old name. I was playing around with a different name here, but we're going to call it the Terai. And so the Terai is an older ship. It was built probably like early 24th century. It was literally days away from being delisted and scrapped by the Federation, and then the Dominion War starts, and they realize they can't scrap a serviceable ship, so it's brought back online, makes it through the Dominion War, and what does encounter some maybe minor battles, makes it through the war, and now the Federation again is in a position where they really can't get rid of the ship quite yet. They're trying to rebuild their forces, right? So the Terai is maybe on its last voyage. It's an older ship, but it's still dependable, and that's what we're dealing with here. And that kind of builds into the overall kind of background setting that I see this game taking place in, and I can get more into that later. But so that's our ship. That being said, let's move over to our mission log. So I'm going to generate here our first mission and see where we're going with the mission log. There are 4 things that we have to roll for. The first is what kind of mission type are we going to have? Then what is the inciting incident that kind of kicks off our story? Is there a advantage or a complication to our mission that we have to work with? And what do we encounter? Person, place, thing, weird space phenomenon, what have you. So again, there's much like everything else in this game, there's a lot of probability matrices here. There's like 15 different mission types, and then each mission type is broken down into a variety of subtypes. So we're going to initially roll 2 d20s, one after another, to determine what kind of mission we're going on. The incident then it's actually an incident and a theme. So we'll roll 2 more dice there and put those together and see what that might be. We will determine whether we're going to have an advantage or a complication. We don't have both, one or the other. And then we'll see what kind of encounter we have. So let me get to the right page here. We're going to get over to page 255, I think has the roll here. Oh, here we go. Okay, 257 mission type. Start there, and we'll go from that. So let me get over to my D20 here. See what we have. 3. Oh, so 3 is deep space exploration. So venture beyond the limits of explored space and expand the boundaries of our knowledge. The most common deep space exploration mission simply involves collecting all the data your long-range scanners can absorb. While it may seem boring, mapping of deep space provides the data necessary for future exploratory missions. When there is excitement to be found, it can be wondrous or dangerous. Be prepared for both. All right, so we have deep space mission. So let's write that down. And then we got to decide, roll another d20 to see what specific kind of mission we're on. 9. Intelligence leak. Okay. Interesting. So we're on a deep space mission and we're dealing with an intelligence leak. So we got to figure out what exactly that means in the context of this mission. All right. So think about that. So moving on to themes and incidents. So let's roll the die here. All right. Sorry about that. If you have kids, you know that you're going to get interrupted a lot unless it's really late at night and they're sleeping. So it's one of the reasons why this video is so stitched together. So bear with me. Where were we? Incident. So we have to roll for an incident, roll for a theme, put these two things together, and it should mean something at the end of it here. So 1 d20 for each of those. So let's roll here first for the incident. 7. Explore. Okay, well, that makes sense. We're on a deep space exploration, right? So we should be exploring, I'd imagine. What are we exploring? We are exploring 7. Exploring a living ship. Interesting. Okay. So, I could see how that might play into like an intelligence leak. Maybe no one was supposed to know about this ship. Something like that. All right. I'm back again. We were looking for a missing library book. 15 minutes before bedtime, because that is the exact perfect time to look for a missing library book. Okay, we didn't find it, by the way, so we'll keep looking. Back to our mission here. So we have we're exploring a living ship. It's a deep space exploration mission. There's some sort of intelligence leak involved. So we'll figure out, have to think about what all that might mean. Now we got to decide, do we have an advantage or complication? So after rolling the incident theme for the encounter, roll the d20 on an even number, roll again on the advantages matrix, on an odd number, roll on the complications matrix. So we have, okay, so we're going to have a complication. And we're going to have, number 1, total catastrophe. The situation escalates dramatically, causing the crew to have to work harder and faster than expected. That doesn't sound very good. I guess that's why it's a complication. So we have a total disaster, total catastrophe. Did I spell that right? Catastrophe. That looks right. All right. So we're going to work in a total catastrophe somewhere. And then finally we have our type of encounter. So we're already exploring a living ship, but what are we going to encounter on this mission here? So again, lots of different types of encounters, abandoned places, deep space, spacefaring civilizations, all sorts of cool things. We'll roll once to determine the general type of encounter. We'll roll again to determine specifically what that encounter is. So let's see here. We have a 5, deep space. Okay. So it's a deep space encounter. We are deep space exploring, so I guess that kind of makes sense. What specifically in deep space are we encountering? 9. Ooh. Okay. Ancient war machine attacking nearby planets. Why does that sound familiar? Could it possibly be one of my favorite original series episodes? Maybe. So we have a living ship, an ancient war machine, an intelligence leak, and a total catastrophe. It certainly sounds like it. It really sounds like we're going to have quite a bit of action in this mission. So there we have. We're going on a deep space exploration mission with some sort of intelligence leak. We're exploring a living ship. There's going to be a total catastrophe, and out in deep space, we have an ancient war machine attacking nearby planets. So what I'm going to do next is off screen here, take some time to think about what all of this means and kind of setting the stage for the mission, and then writing out my initial first officer's log to kick off the first part of this mission. And then the next video, we'll get it started, and we'll see where our mission takes us and kind of walk through what it looks like to play Captain's Log itself. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon with episode 1 of, I guess I have to give this series a title. I'll have to think about that too. Episode 1 of the Wally Ligaki Deep Space Mystery Show. And until then, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.